Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Soul and Screen. In this particular video, I will be continuing the conversation on soul ties as it pertains to the TV show Tyler Perry's Sistas. We are using the situationship and the characters of Zach, Fatima, and Karen. Let's just get into it. Last episode, I left off basically where Fatima was showing Zach some pamphlets in regards to some therapy and schools that she believes will be good for Michael. I mentioned how Zach just looked at Fatima and was just like in love because of him seeing that she's already taking care of and caring for his son. And just told her basically that, I would marry you today if you would let me. So anyway, let's pick up from there. He basically tells her basically he's like, let's just, since we can't have the wedding, let's practice the honeymoon. So they run upstairs, have them a little cute moment where, where he's like, let's go have sex. And she's like, really? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And so they run upstairs, they have sex, and fast forward into the episodes a little bit more. So because Zach had went to ask or tell Karen that he, wanted her to have a test, a DNA test, when Karen gets to the sisters, it's like Sabrina's birthday and they are all meeting up at Andy's house, she basically tells them that Zach is asking for a DNA test, and she goes, I know that it's Fatima putting them up to it though. And so Danny is like, but you don't think that they're wrong for wanting one, right? And so Karen looks at her and she's like, wait a minute, you on their side? And so I say this because Karen has, from the beginning of Zach and Fatima's relationship, when she found out that he was dating Fatima and she knew Fatima. Now, again, they were not friends. Fatima and Karen were not friends. They had just met each other. They were possibly becoming friends because Fatima went and let Karen do her hair. And in that conversation, they had started talking about this new dude that she's dating and the new dude that Karen was dating. So they both were talking about someone that they were dating. At the time, they just didn't know that Fatima was talking about Zach. But I say that to say is, Karen, from the moment she found out that Fatima was the person that Zach was dating and into, has made this a competition. It's always their side or her side and that kind of thing. And that's, again, another effect of the soul tie as we are continuing that conversation. Everything is a competition. And so Danny literally was just bringing some light and some real rationale to it. You think it's wrong for them to want a DNA test to show that, it's his baby. You do understand that no matter what, you was sleeping with two dudes, at least. We honestly don't know if you were sleeping with another person. And I say that because Danny did bring up that she used to sleep with a whole bunch of different people back in college. Now, mind you, college is years ago, but since Rico was in the mix, and it doesn't seem like everybody knew that. It seems like maybe Andy may have knew about Rico, but I say that to say Andy still knew Karen well enough to say that it could be another person that's possibly in there. But even if not, even if it really still is just between Zach and Aaron, you think it's something wrong with him wanting to know for sure versus take your word? Karen, you omit the truth, you lie, you twist it. Why wouldn't he want, you know what I'm saying? And Danny didn't say all this, but it's kind of insinuated. Why wouldn't, you think it's wrong for them to want proof? So, Karen gets an attitude. She was like, I can't even believe you. And so Andy, calms it down. And she's like, you guys don't do it. And so they just move on from that conversation. You fast forward into it a little bit more. Zach and Fatima are at the law office with Andy, and they basically are at the conclusion of the case where they find out that they are going to get custody of Michael. So Zach is looking at the paperwork. Fatima is there comforting him, and she's like, babe, he's ours. And Zach is like, I can't believe this. And he's just like thanking Fatima. Like, he's like, thank you for being here. Thank you for helping me through this. And she's just like, yeah, I got you, babe. You know what I mean? And he's like, Andy, thank you. Like, you don't even know. And like, Zach is in tears. And you guys know that, you know, Zach is an emotional character. So he feel like he gonna cry. And so he's like, you know, I'm sorry. And Fatima's like, babe, like, don't be sorry. Like, this is a big deal, you know? And so he's like, we gonna be, you know, this gonna be great. Like, you gonna be an amazing mom. I'm gonna be an amazing dad. And, you know, I like looking forward to like movie nights, PTA meetings. And he kind of go overboard and tell Fatima, like, you're gonna have to trade in your car to get, you know, a van or something like that. And she looks and she's like, okay, let's slow down, but let me put a pin here. Why I got to be the one to trade my car in? Like, don't get me wrong, I am absolutely fine with raising your son, him calling me mama and everything, but why I got to get the minivan? You get a minivan. Like, you the one, your car is actually the one that got more seats, because Fatima car is smaller. So I don't know if it's I know, I think it does have 4 doors, but it's just a smaller, kind of tighter ride. So your car bigger, you put the car seat in your house, in your car. But anyway, so they have their moment, and turns out that, you know, so Andy is kind of like, here, sign the paperwork. I'll let you know when you can get them, because they still have to go like get the paperwork filed and go through the process of getting him transitioned out of the foster home. So anyway, he's like, you know, will you stop and pick up some, you know, juices on your way home? And, you know, it's just, and she's like, yeah, I can do that. But my thing is here too, like, Zach, you on your way home, stop at the store, bruh. Like, you know, Fatima at work, you know, go to the store and pick up the juices. Like, I'm just saying, like, we gotta figure out how this gonna work, because we both work. So you can't be expecting Fatima to do all the cooking. But I will say that, you know, we have seen in past episodes that Zach does cook for Fatima. So I ain't saying that, but I'm just saying, why you can't go to the store, bruh? Like, so anyway, to fast forward a little bit more, Fatima happens to find out in that same meeting while they're sitting down that she gets accepted into law school. And she's just like, oh my goodness, like, this is like bad timing, because she understands the what's getting ready to happen in their house, right? We are now going from a couple who's still really new in our relationship. Remember, they only a few months into this relationship. We live with each other. We're engaged. We still learning one another. And now we are bringing in a toddler who is, you know, special needs or delayed development, whatever you want to title it. But either way, this is already a lot going on. And now you add in law school. But you know, she's like, I can't turn this down, right? Like, this is what I've always wanted. So anyway, Fatima later on tells Andy, because Andy notices like something was up, like, you good? And so Andy was like, no, you know, like, she was like, no, Fatima, I saw something was up. And she was like, well, I got accepted into law school. And she was like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy for you. She was like, Zach must be excited for you. And Fatima tells you know, Andy, actually, I didn't tell him yet. And so she was like, I knew it was something. And this is a moment where I will say Andy did show to have some for real, genuine friendship, you know, and concern for Fatima. She basically told Fatima a real thing. She was like, well, listen, you guys will figure it out. Plus, this will be an opportunity for Zach to show up and be there for you, because Fatima has been there for a lot of Zach's drama. And so you know, Andy was just reminding her, like, this is where he can show up for you. And so you guys will figure it out. And so she was like, no, you're right. And so, fast forward into the to the season a little bit more. Fatima does tell Zach, that she's, she goes home and she tries to tell Zach that she's in law school, but stuff starts happening. Like, she comes downstairs the house. He got, like, Zach on wild out. Like, mind you, apparently he already went and bought Michael a room full of toys for his foster home, and he went and bought a whole bunch of more toys and brought them home. And so they all over the house, and Fatima comes downstairs and she's like, Zach, what you do to my house? And he's like, oh, this is just temporary and stuff. And she's like, Zach, like, listen, we got to talk. And she gets ready to tell him that she got accepted into law school, but he gets a call from Bryce and he's like, I got to go look at a property. And Fatima's like, do you see what time it is? And he was like, nah, but don't even go there. Like, I got to go. I'll be back in time for dinner. And she was like, well, who said I'm cooking? And he was like, well, somebody got to start cooking all these organic meals and stuff like that. And, and so she just looks at him and he leaves. And, she calls Angela over and has a discussion with Angela, her best friend, about her not wanting to lose herself. And now she's a mom and all this kind of stuff. And then you fast forward a little bit more into the episode. Zach comes up to the job and he's like got flowers. And so she's like, what is all this? And he's like, I saw your acceptance letter on the printer, and I just wanted to come up here and tell you that I'm proud of you. So he had brought her some roses, and he put the acceptance letter in a frame. So everybody who was always like, Zach don't never do nothing for Fatima, he absolutely showed up for her. He was like, we gonna figure this out, babe, like, don't worry about it. And so she was like, thank you, Zach, like, you do know that this gonna pull me, like, I'm not gonna be able to help as much, even with Michael. Like, it's like her time. She's like, I have to study. And he's like, no, we gonna work it out. And so she's like, all right. And he goes, well, what about the wedding? And she was like, well, let's just talk about that later. We'll celebrate in other ways when I get home, but like, we'll talk about the wedding, later on. And so he's like, okay. So you fast forward into it a little bit more, and because Karen ends up finding out that she's struggling financially. Apparently the owner of the building shuts Karen's lights off at one point, and even during, like, before her grand opening, and then just kind of keep running into issues financially where Karen's late, her rent was late, and just all this other stuff. And so Pam, Karen is talking to Pam, and she's like, just I'm over here trying to figure out, like, the budgeting, and Pam's like, we doing good. And she was like, this is just one day. We got to have a whole bunch of these days. And she was like, well, Karen, like, don't worry about it, because as soon as you have this baby, Zach gonna have to help you. And so that sparked a whole nother conversation and thought, because Karen actually, she shakes her head and she's like, oh my goodness. And she realizes in this moment, she's going to have to prove that this baby is Zach's at this point, because she does want Zach to pay child support. But let me say this, this is one reason why I think men have an issue paying child support, because the way that Miss Lisa and Karen are trying to use this money, so the child support that Zach will have to pay for is exactly that, child support. It will be paying for that child's expenses, living expenses, food, that kind of stuff. That don't have anything to do with Karen's shop. Like, come on, Karen, the place that she lives in and all that kind of stuff. Like, even if she were to get, make a little bit more, because he was offering her, I believe it was $3,000 a month. Like, truly, like, on top of what you do, and, but the baby's money is not supposed to be for the purposes of helping your business out. And it's not even really supposed to just take up and pay all your bills, because it's supposed to be paying the baby's portion. So I'm okay probably, and he probably would have been okay. Now remember, Zach lived with Karen, so he know how much all her bills are. So the fact that he offered $3,000, I'm pretty sure, was very generous, because it probably took care of everything plus more. And I say that because he gave her the money for the shop plus, and he didn't really need to. You see what I'm saying? So I doubt he would skimp on his child when he's giving Heather $2,000 a month and he didn't even know her. So, he does have some knowledge and some care and some love for Karen and their child, but so he's not going to skimp on her. So he knows how much her rent is. He knows how much all her bills is. And so I'm pretty sure the $3,000 covered that plus what any expenses that he thought was fair for the baby. Now, again, why she feels like, oh my goodness, now I got to go get this DNA test so that he can give me this money. It's not for your building. It's not for your salon. It's for the health and the care of the baby. Now, with that being said, Karen then decides, I guess I better go get it. So she drives over to Zach and Fatima's house in the middle of the night and banging on their door. And she's like, and Zach comes to the door now. And so he's like, hey, yo, wait, cause she's pounding on the door like she the police or something. And so he opens the door and he was like, oh, Karen, what you doing here? And she was like, I just came to tell you that I made an appointment for the DNA test. And he was like, okay, cool. He was like, you could have called me for that. And she was like, no, I wanted to tell you in person. And he was like, all right, so what I need to do? And she was like, for you, it ain't really nothing. It's just like a swab or something. But for me, they got to stick a needle in my stomach and all this kind of stuff. And so Zach was like, oh man, dang, I didn't even know. And she's like, don't even try to act like you care. I just wanted to come and tell you that the appointment's tomorrow at noon and don't bring Fatima. And so she says that, and Fatima leers, comes across and Zach sees her, and he's like, no. And she's like, no, she wanted me to hear basically. So I'm here. Plus she almost woke up Michael. And she was like, and so she was like, well, like I said, Karen, she's like, well, like I said, don't come to my appointment. And so Fatima was like, well, who gonna stop me? And she was like, she was like, well, who gonna stop me? And she was like, who gonna stop you? And she was like, yeah. She was like, basically Karen was kind of trying to say first of all, I'm tired of you, getting in business that ain't got nothing to do with you. Telling Fatima this ain't none of her business. Cause Fatima was like, I don't even know what you got an attitude with me for anyway. And so Karen goes, I'm mad because you keep putting all these, thoughts in Zach's head and ain't none of this ain't even your business. And so Fatima tells her, well, actually, it is my business because I'm gonna be his wife soon. And so Karen goes, wife my ass. Again, hating, right? And so she goes, well, like I said, don't come to my appointment. And she walks off, and then she calls Fatima. She's like, Zach is like, whatever, Karen, bye. Thank you for stopping by. And she was like, tomorrow noon, no, she calls Fatima out her name again. And so it was just like, Zach looks at Fatima and he was like, quit worrying about her. Why you even worried about her? And so you fast forward into it. Well, no, let me just put a pin here. Again, this is another episode of this soul tie lashing out now because Karen realizes, because remember, she was playing nice. Remember I mentioned in the other video, I think Karen was only playing nice because she thought and she believed that at this point, I'm not going to get no fight back. I'm not going to get no pushback or anything about this being Zach's baby. Now that I took some stuff over to Michael, I'm being nice and everything. So he should take my word for it. And so should Fatima. So the fact that Fatima still was telling Zach that she wants a DNA test and the fact that Zach had to, because if he wants to be with Fatima, he was going to have to get this DNA test. And so Karen realizing still getting mad because she's realizing how much influence Fatima has on Zach that, she used to have. Basically, she would tell Zach what to do and Zach would do it. He would jump and everything. Well, this is really more so solidifying that Zach ain't thinking about you no more. And so anyway, so she is now lashing out because she realizes that, Fatima wants a DNA test, which Fatima has always told her from the beginning in season 4 at the episode at Andy's house that we getting a DNA test. We gonna get a paternity test and find out who the baby daddy is. So the fact that she's mad that Fatima still hasn't let up And then everybody is just like, but she's, but Karen still is so 100% sure that Zach is the father. Then why you won't go get this test? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so fast forward into the episode a little bit, the season a little bit more. Fatima basically, Zach goes to the hospital. He sees Karen. And Karen, he's running late, and Karen's like, hey, you late? And he was like, oh, I know, I stopped and I got you something to eat because you said we might be here for a while. So he went and bought her some food, and he's sitting there and they talking, and he's like, is there anything I need to do? And she was like, well, I filled out all the paperwork already. And he was like, don't be trying to act like like all my stuff. And she was like, boy, please, like I know, I probably know it better than you. And so she looks at him, and she was like, well, anyway, are you ready? And he was like, for all this drama, like to just get this done with so we can know. Yeah. And she was like, no, you gotta give blood versus a swab, because originally she told him he was just gonna have to get his cheek swabbed. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I'm good. And she was like, Zach, you ain't gotta act all macho, like I know you scared of needles. And he was like, nah, that's the old Zach, like new Zach is good. And so she's like irritated because, she don't like this new Zach references and stuff, right? So she was just like, anyway. He was like, anyway, don't worry about that. And he was like, what you need to be worried about is if, Zach Jr. got my head. And so she was like, my baby ain't gonna have no big head or nothing like that. And so she's like really trying to, get Zach into a good place. Like, and so he leans over and he touches her stomach, which is the first time that he's like made contact with her in months. And so she's eating this up, she cheesing, and she's like, her voice and tempo has changed. She lightened up and softened up again. My baby not gonna have no big head, like, and Fatima walks in. And so Zach looks up, and he sees Fatima, and he's like, oh, S-H-I-T. He don't say that, but you can tell he was thinking it, like, so he moves his hand from Karen real quick, and Karen looks over to see who Zach is looking at, and she sees Fatima, and so she rolls her eyes because she realizes that, again, Fatima is interrupting this moment that she wants to have with Zach, right? Like, she wants these moments with Zach. She wanted Zach to be around and come check on her so that he could feel the baby move, and, she wanted those things, and he hasn't done anything. And so, so for her, Fatima is once again interrupting her plans. So Fatima gets there, and she's like, hey, babe. And he's like, hey. And so she sits down, and he's like kissing her, but Fatima, you can tell, is just like, whatever. So she halfway lets him try to kiss her on the cheek, and she, whatever. And Zach is like, he already kind of know, like, dang. And so Karen goes, Zach, I thought I told you I just wanted it to be us. And so Fatima interrupts, and before Zach can say anything, she goes, well, I wanted to be here because I know Zach has, he's afraid of needles, and I wanted to be here to support Zach because all the Karen fans were ticked off that she ain't got no business showing up to her appointment or anything. She had every right to show up to support her fiance. And honestly, what difference does it make? Like, y'all not even going in the same rooms with each other. Like, Karen went in one room and Zach went to another room. So, you know what I'm saying? So this whole the animosity and the hostility that, the Karen fans had because Fatima showed up at the hospital to support her fiance, who she know, the man don't like needles. Why wouldn't she show up? You know what I'm saying? But definitely, since you tried to tell me I can't come nowhere, girl, bye. So anyway, Fatima basically checks Karen, and she was like, and so, she was like, and I came to support Zach. And so Karen was like, but like I said. And so Fatima was like I said. And so Zach is like, yo, just calm down. And so he goes, Karen, I apologize for Fatima popping up. And so Fatima was like, popping up, so you don't want me here? And he was like, no, that's, she was like, well, what you saying? He was like, well, I'm just saying you said that you wasn't going to come. And she goes, and you told me that I can come if I wanted to. And so which one is it? And he was just like, okay, so we all here. Let's just calm down. So he realized he pissed Fatima off, like, so he was like, let's just calm down. We all here. And then the nurse comes in, and she comes in, and she's like, Zach and Karen, Zarin. And she's like, that's a cute baby name. And Zach is like, are you kidding me? He's like, like, do not do that. Like, we is letting her know, like, that ain't how it is. So she's like, okay, well, you can come on back. And so for whatever reason, Karen thought it would be her business. Now, this was what's interesting, is she thought it would be her business. That she goes, is anybody even able to, is she even able to go back there with him? Like, why you care if she go back with him or not? Like, and so Fatima was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I don't really need to go back there. I can sit here and wait. And so the nurse was like, oh no, you can go. And they just about to take some blood. Like, and so Karen was like, oh, good. And so Fatima was like, yeah. And so Zach was like, cool, we good? So let's go. So he takes Fatima and goes in the back and waits for the doctor to come. The doctor comes, takes some blood, and, Zach and Fatima have this little moment because, he's like, all this, I be watching all these shows and all this kind of stuff, and they could get DNA from anything. And now all of a sudden they want to poke me with a needle to get some blood. And so Fatima was like, Zach, like, and so she was like, it ain't even gonna hurt. So she pinches him and she's like, it's not gonna hurt no more than that. And Zach was like, oh, I thought you were supposed to be here to be supportive. And, so you can tell he was kind of taking a dig at her. So Fatima looked at him and she was like, Zach, I'm sorry that I didn't call and tell you that I was coming. She was like, in all honesty, I didn't even want to be here. Like, she was like, I'm just, but this is my life too. And so I need to know, like, what's going on. And so she basically explained. He was like, I get it. He was like, I know. He was like, I'm glad you came. And so then the nurse comes in and they take some blood from him. And, he starts like acting like super scared, like, wait, no. And so anyway, they take the test. On the other side of the doctor's office, Karen is getting an ultrasound where the doctor finds out that she is in fact pregnant with twins, and told her that because the twins are in two separate sacs, they got to do a test and they have to go through both sacs. And so she goes, okay. And so Karen comes out and tells Zach that, listen, for everybody, she don't want his money. The first thing that she came out and said to Zach was, Zach, I think you're going to have to pay double child support. Miss, this ain't about money. All the Karen fans out there who was like, this ain't about money. She literally came out and said to him, I think you're going to have to pay double child support. And he was like, what? She was like, I'm pregnant with twins. And he was like, twins? Now, this is why we said those of us who are not Karen fans necessarily, but are just really watching the show. I'm a Fatima fan. I don't know about everybody else, but still just watching the show. And was upset with the new writers because they had Zach like way too excited for about this twin thing, and him not considering Fatima and all this stuff when towards in season 6 that they had already, fought that battle. He had already realized that he, with the fire thing, and he had from that moment been on Fatima and on Michael. And then all of a sudden he's just like super excited and stuff like that. And so anyway, he's like, twins? And she's like, yeah. And so he's like happy. And so he's like, can I hug you? And she's like, yeah. And so she's pumped because he's excited now. And so he's like, wait a minute, but wait, are they mine? And she goes, I don't know yet. We got to wait a couple of days before we get those tests back. And he was like, okay. And so he was like, no. And so he goes, can I hug you? And she's like, yeah. And so when he hugs her, Fatima walks up and he sees Fatima coming in, and before Fatima could say anything, because he's looking at the look on her face, and he's like, wait, baby, hold on. He's like, baby, guess what? And Fatima is like, what? Like with an attitude and everything, like, why are you hugging her? And he was like, I'm having twins. And she was like, what? And he was like, she pregnant with twins. And he was like, show her the ultrasound. And so Karen shows her the ultrasound, and then she gets a phone call. So Karen goes off to take the phone call, and it's just Zach and Fatima. And he's like, babe, like Fatima is shocked. She's just like, I don't even know what to do. And so Zach is just like, babe, like, what's the matter? Are you okay? Like, and she's just like, yeah. And so Karen comes back, she gets the ultrasound, and she walks off, and Zach is like, babe, like, what's the matter with you? Are you fine? And she was like, I got to go back to work. And so she was like, I'll see you when I get home. And he was like, okay, dang, like he just cheesing and everything. And Fatima walks off, and he tries to kiss her, and she walks off. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this particular video here, and we'll continue on in the next video. But so with that being said, let me know what you think about this particular video, and let's talk about, again, the soul ties and stuff. So again, Karen showing up to their house. What do you think about that? You know, or even her having an attitude that that Danny was in agreement that, you know, like, why are you mad that they want, you know, a DNA test? Once again, they were all there when Fatima told Karen in season 4 that they wanted a paternity test. And so tell me what you think about that. And then also just how this soul tie is still like making her, you know, well, not making her do anything. Again, the soul ties doesn't make you do anything. It just makes it difficult for you to come out of stuff, especially when you don't want out of it. And she still doesn't want out of it. 3 months into from season 6 have passed. Zach has shown no interest, and she's like upset that he didn't come to, you know, again, the opening and to congratulate her. And then when he did come, it was really just to ask about the DNA test, and she was heated about it. So let's talk about that, how she continues to pop up to Zach and Fatima's house, and then even how she didn't give a dang about Michael knocking on the door. Like, she just like the police and everything, all just to get Fatima a rise out of Fatima to tell her not to come to the appointment. You know what I'm saying? And then what about even the comment where when Fatima told her, you know, I'm going to be his wife, and she was like, wife my ass, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, just the audacity for you to say something that, again, shows that you are such, you know, she hating on her, you know, like, it's not my fault you never made it this far to the point where he wanted to marry you, because, you know, that kind of stuff. And so, let me know what you think about that. And then the whole incident and conversation in the hospital, like, again, Karen believing that she had the right to tell Fatima that she can't come to, you know, Zach's appointment. Again, it wasn't just Karen's appointment. Zach had to go. And in all honesty, if you really want to be for real, that you don't even need to go at the same time. Like, blood tests, like me going to get a blood test and you going to get a blood test at the same place, doesn't got nothing to do with us being there at the same time. It didn't need to be that way. So why would not go? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's just get into the conversation. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. I can't wait to read you guys' comments and thoughts down in the comments. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next video. Bye.